of that individual. We have to be concerned about the health of the individual who is creating the content and the individual who is consuming the content. So that's why I'm here. And the topic this morning that I've been given is Eye on the Screen, the public health implication of consumption of the digital media. So can we have it so I can start? It would be like preaching to the Pope if I start saying some other things I have put there, about the digital media, about internet access, about what we have currently going on, the rapid transformation in the digital industry with regards to media consumption. We know that in Africa, there is a rapid, with regards to consumption of content, when you talk about all that we've been talking about since Tuesday, it's a lot in Africa. And so, how does it affect our health? I'm waiting for the video, Is it coming? Is it coming? Okay. Right. So we all know about the digital surge in Africa, that the digital literacy in Africa is about 38%. But when we talk about internet penetration, as we have all learned, it's close to I think it's 48% compared to the world, which is 68%. Meaning in Africa, we're moving. However, when you talk about access, digital access is a lot. In Africa, we're doing so much. In fact, the highest web traffic is in Africa when you talk about the world. And when you go to the nitty-gritty of this web traffic, it's largely on the telephone. And you heard Temitope when he spoke this morning. He was talking about the Gen Z, the younger generation. All they do is to be on their phone. Like 98% of the time, they are just there consuming it. And they use the internet a lot. And 98% of the time, they are on the telephone. Not even the PC, not through the other media. And when we look at this consumption, the digital media consumption through the telephone, which is the highest, even in Africa. And in fact, Africa, we have the highest. We are maybe about 800, we have 855 subscribers in Africa to telephones. And Nigeria is the highest, of course, followed by Egypt and then South Africa. So we have a lot of people on these digital devices, particularly the telephone. And telephone, we are talking smartphone. So this is good because it has its own good side. And the topic I have been given, you see, it says, Eye on the Screen, the public health implication of digital media consumption. So we have agreed that there's rapid smartphone, unprecedented smartphone penetration in Africa. But how does that help us? Is there any gain to this? Why are we complaining? Well, we cannot complain. Does it have any good? Yes, it does. Now, if we look at all we do, particularly public health, when you talk about public health, is it of any good? Yes, it is. But it has its downside. But we'll take the positive side first. Now, what are those positive things that digital media has done in health? Number one is now we have a lot of information. I tell you, post-COVID, even during COVID, a lot of international meetings that we could have, they were held online. Now we have like a one-on-one with all our international collaborators. So it has improved collaboration. It has improved our level of information. The information we get now, you will all agree with me, if you have any health condition now, the thing you do first is to go to Google. Now we have ChatGPT. So it's helping a lot in the health industry with regards to public health. What's more, you know, when you talk about, there are so many devices we are all carrying. I have my iWatch with me. On some morning, if I don't feel well, I just tap on it. I look at my pulse. I can check my ECG because I'm a doctor. I just stay still and I check it. So it tells me, okay, no problem with my ECG. You know, so digital media is giving us a lot is doing us a lot of good when it comes to public health. Beyond that, there are a lot of apps that are being generated now. You can check your blood pressure. You can, for some, you can even check your blood sugar. You can check the whole wellness. That is the digital media. And you can think that, well, if it's there, people have to look at it. People have to keep checking. So those are the issues. And a lot of information is being passed to people. On the digital media, we have influencers, you know, we have content creator, particularly, you know, we have those who are doctors. We all know about Akpoko Doctor. He has a way of passing on this information about our health. You know, so these are all the things that digital media, the advantages, you know, the positive implications of digital media when it comes to public health. And beyond that, all our hospitals now, majority of the hospitals, particularly the private hospitals, you don't see anybody carrying around files. Everything is on the laptop or the desktop. So we have the health information system. Everything is connected. I can even see a patient who is in faraway rural area as I'm here because of the advantage of telemedicine. Just take a picture, send it to me, you know, I'm able to say, okay, this is what you should do. And beyond that, now we have artificial intelligence. We have the machine learning, deep learning, which is bringing now about a lot of, you know, is revolutionizing healthcare. All this is backed up by the digital media. And, you know, what more? We can do so many things. We're doing so many things with the digital media. In fact, another one now, you know, you see a lot of people going about with these Meta glasses. Now, this is one thing that is now being introduced. It's all part of media, and that is one of the gains that we get. So why are we bothering? Why bother? It's doing us a lot of good. Why am I here to talk? Well, it's because the people or all the things we're talking about, for you to benefit from it, you have to look. And when you are looking, what dangers are we being exposed to? Now, I'll take us back to what Temitope said. You know, he said, the young people, that's all they do most of the time. They are always with their telephone. Yes, that's what they do. But is this telephone posing a lot of dangers? All of us in this room, I'm sure we've looked at our phone like 30 times today, you know, and that's what we do most of the time. Even when we're at work, it's either you are sitting in front of your laptop, all you are doing is just stare, stare, stare. But, I mean, what dangers do we expose ourselves to? Now, I stand here to tell you that what we call the computer vision syndrome really exists. The digital eye strain exists. But it goes beyond that. When you sit continuously and you are looking at your laptop, you know, without even blinking. Because ideally you are to blink 15 times in a minute. 15 times in a minute you are expected to blink so that you can lubricate your eye. It doesn't get dry. But you know how many of us do that? Because you have a lot of things to do, so you are just seated there. Meanwhile, in the room where you are, maybe the fan is directed at you or the AC. So everything is there, so the eyes are getting dried out. And by the end of the day, you are so tired, you're coming down with a lot of headaches, you have a lot of pain around your eyes, and you would think is because of somebody or, no. It's because those eyes have been opened, not lubricated, and it sends message to the brain, and before you know it, everything is the whole body that is affected. It could be so uncomfortable, and all you have is because your eyes are dry. Now, beyond that, we go beyond the day, we go into the night. Temitope again, you know, young men, all they do, or women, ladies, all of them, children, at night, they are just in their room alone. The room is dark, but the laptop is on, or the telephone is on. Two things. One, the danger of the blue light that is being emitted. All these rays we have in the environment, the eye is in such a way that some of them are absorbed. The UV light is absorbed by the cornea, by the lens inside your eye. But the blue light, which all these devices emit, is not absorbed by them. So it goes right back to the back of your eye where image processing for you to be able to see well take place. And there are some sensitive cells there. You know, there are so many cells inside our eyes. The one that makes you see well, but there are some that it controls your sleep, you know, your sleep-wake cycle. And these cells, you know, the blue light, what it does, you know, by the time it's getting dark, it tells your body, okay, it seems it's getting dark. So then your body begins to secrete a hormone which is called melatonin. And that melatonin helps you to sleep well. Now, by the time you are just pushing that blue ray, just bombarding the eye with the blue ray, of course, you are telling those cells, you know, it's called intrinsically sensitive, photosensitive cells. You're telling it, don't worry, it's still daytime, there's still a lot of light, and it doesn't tell your brain that it is time to sleep because melatonin is not being secreted. So you have poor sleeping habits. You have insomnia. You are not sleeping well. And somebody who is not sleeping well, day in, day out, it becomes a vicious cycle. And what then happens, you go into a state of anxiety. From anxiety, it goes to depression, and then people keep telling you they have a mental health issue. So those Gen Z, tell them that part of the habit that they do, just sitting on the laptop throughout, at night, you see them all covered. The phone is under the cover, or the laptop is under the cover. It's all part of the problem. They have to reduce the amount of blue rays that they get into their eyes, you know, because it does that. It affects the sleep-wake cycle. Beyond that, it also affects, you know, the release. It affects, you know, it causes or it predisposes to development of certain cancers, you know, and that is frightening. So those are the reasons. But beyond that, when you are operating all these digital devices, you are just seated in one place and, you know, sedentary. So that will predispose one to developing hypertension, to developing diabetes. In Nigeria, prevalence of hypertension is 45%. That's like a 1 in 2. And this digital eye syndrome that I talk about is 2 in 3. There are 3 people, 2 people are affected, about 70%. So we really need to do something about it. And, you know, it causes you lose your sleep. But beyond that, you also just put on weight. So from obesity to diabetes to hypertension, all just because you are seated in one place. And that will affect, you know, no, just go, I've gone beyond all this. So that will affect the way we move. Just keep on. No, you know, just to let us know that we have a lot more of this information coming in Unilag now. We have the first Open AI Academy, you know, for artificial intelligence. So it's still going to be more, you know, and we know that Africa is leading in mobile money innovation. So people are still going to use this telephone the more, which is why we have to give this information. Just move it, move it. I'm almost done. Yes. So with all I have said, what is to be done? What is to be done? Number 1, limit your screen time. You know, averagely he told us, he said 6 hours. No, it's actually from researches, it's 9 to 11 hours. You know, that, you know, young people, they stay on the telephone just looking at it. So to avert all these problems, the mitigations are, number 1, make sure you are wearing correct prescription. And For children, children are also affected. A lot of parents now, I don't know, maybe because they are so busy, you see a 1-year-old child with tablets, that's all they're doing. And for children, because the eyeballs are still growing, and we expose them to a lot of this blue light, a lot of the digital rays, the eyeballs keeps enlarging. You know that in Asia, 90% of the children there, they are short-sighted. So meaning 9 out of 10 children in Asia, they wear glasses. And the same thing is going to happen in Africa if we don't stem it. And it is happening already. We see a lot of children coming just because we just give them all these digital devices. And in school, that's what they're using as well. What's more, children, they are expected to stay outside in the sun for about 15 minutes. And what that does, it reduces the rate of growth of the eye. But a lot of our schools, they don't have that in place. Children don't play outside anymore. All we do is give them those tablets. The eyeballs keep enlarging. The sun that the Almighty God has put there to reduce the rate of growth of the eyeball, they are prohibited from that because they are inside all the time. So it's important that we ensure that our children get their eyes checked, children, and also make sure that they play outside. If they need to wear glasses, get them the glasses so that it doesn't get worse. I tell you, short-sightedness could result into blindness if you don't manage it well, and we don't want that. What else? Regulations. We've talked about regulations many times during this week. So we have to put in place regulations in school. All the schools, in fact, there are some highbrow schools in Lagos now. They don't use laptops anymore. They teach them, and they have controlled the screen time. So we need to control the screen time for the children. Even for ourselves, we need to control the screen time. Let us have the proper prescription for our glasses. Reduce exposure to blue light. Reduce exposure to blue light. If you have to work on the laptops, make sure you are sitting at about the same level, because even your backs, the ergonomics is also there. And then for your eyes, you can have some screen on your computer. Now you ask me, the blue light, the blue lenses that we are all wearing, I tell you, it's just for fashion. It doesn't have much effect on the damage or the lack of sleep that it causes. So I want to, no, let me just finish. No, just to say that together, all of us, we can navigate this surge if we put all these controls in place. I thank you for your attention.
Please, Matt, you won't have to go now. You sit down because you are going to be part of the panel. I'm sure when you heard that we introduced a panel, a presenter, and we said she's a professor, I'm sure you were wondering, what has this doctor got to do with Africast? And what is she going to be talking about? But if you look at critically from the conversation we had from this morning, you know that there's need to talk about this. Please let me change the microphone so you can hear me clearly. Remember when Greg spoke to us this morning from the UK? He said these shifting patterns of our youth poses great challenge, not only for the individual, but for the society. The time they spend on their screen does not only pose a cultural problem, it also poses what? A health challenge. Semitope spoke this morning about their restlessness. And it is because they are glued to their screen. And when Prof was talking, she talked about anxiety, and this affects their mental health. So you see how connected it is. When DG NBC insisted that this was going to happen, the focus for this, the edutainment imperative was to look at, the objective was to look at blending education and entertainment for impact and engagement. And the media plays a critical role in this regard. So you can see why this presentation is important. And on this note, I'm going to call on the panelists for this session, and I have the singular honor to invite the first panelist. I say this with a smile on my face because I'm going to be inviting the former DG of the National Broadcasting Commission, the CEO of Afia TV, Mr. Emeka Mba, as the first panelist for this discussion. I can't hear, that is my former DG, please. Can I hear the round of applause, please, to be louder? Thank you very much. Thank you for honoring us, sir. The next panelist, you are wondering, I'm keeping Ezine, I'm going to be calling you last. I hope that's fine. Okay. All right, the next panelist I'm going to be calling is T.Y. Belu. Is she here? Yes, I can see her with us. Oh, so good to have you here. And I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting panel session. And now I have the singular honor to call on the moderator, Mrs. Ezine Azuna. She's the CEO, Media Traction Limited, owners of Maritime TV Africa, amongst others. Please join me as I welcome Ezine Azuna. And now I will hand over the microphone to you. Okay. No, you can sit. Don't worry. Feel very free to sit beside my Oga.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ezine Azuna, and it's an honor to be here to moderate this session. I'd like to say a big thank you to MBC. Digisa, thank you very much for this opportunity. I also thank your management team and several leaders in the industry who are here. In fact, even this panel is intimidating, isn't it? But we'll pull through because I have two ladies to support me and, of course, a big brother in my former DG here. The task ahead of us is looking at edutainment. And while I pondered over it, one of the first things I established is that edutainment is not a foreign concept. It's been with us in Africa from the get-go. It's been with us from our traditional societies. Edutainment has been there, you know. But when I cast my mind back, I quickly remembered shows like Sesame Street, you know, and the fusion. In fact, it's a case study globally, you know, how effective education laced together with entertainment can be. That said, I still went back to our traditions when folklores, Tales by Moonlight, you know, well, Tales by Moonlight NTA is different from the one I mean now. So the one from the traditional society where we handed down information, we handed down content, you know. So content creation is original to the African. It's original to Nigerians. It's not strange to us. Our culture is embedded in content creation in everything we do. But the discussion here today now is the disruption. Digital age is here. What are we going to be doing? How are we going to be doing it? Have we left the consciousness of the message we have carried within our very stories? And then here with me are people who are going to be answering the question today. And so we'll just delve straight into the discussion. So if you permit me, may I also take this brief? So the media landscape or the content creation landscape is rapidly evolving, and audiences now consume information in increasingly entertaining ways. Social media trends reveal how learning and leisure continue to blur. Edutainment imperative invites broadcasters, content creators, and regulators to rethink entertainment, not merely as amusement or a chase for views, but also as a transformative tool for education, cultural preservation, and social change. So from Africa's oral traditions and proverbs, to Tales by Moonlight, I'm sure we remember I Need to Know, Papa Jasco, we remember Fuji House of Commotion. They were all content on our screens that were laced with education, within it. But the blend of learning and creativity demonstrates how content can both shape public understanding and sustain industry. While we combat the digitalization, commercialization, and Western influence reshape our media, the question we must ask is how do we retain educational and cultural essence of our content while staying relevant in a fast-paced, profit-driven world, even within 1-minute reels? So now I'm going to begin. Earlier on, we had a lot about penetration, digital penetration, put at 45.4%. That's almost 50% actually. My question will be, and I don't know who to start with now, but I think the normal thing to do, I'd love to start with DG, former DG, sir. So penetration has increased. What should we be doing? How should content creators be presenting what they are doing, traditional content creators? How does this statistics affect what we do? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ozine. I want to thank the MBC for inviting me today. Let me start, from what you're saying, that we are 40-something% in terms of digital penetration. And we saw earlier, I think Doctor was presenting that of this percentage, a higher number of young people. So the reality for me will be for us to recognize whether we are pushing enough content, locally produced content, to serve the needs of this growing population of young people. And if not, what should we do to make sure that this majority of our population who are under 30 have the right content? Is there a policy framework to ensure that this growing number of people have the, when I walked in here, I think I was talking to my lovely friend there that I just met, and I was saying to her, it's important for the government, as a matter of policy, to mandate. We already have existing funds within the Basic Education Fund, because, look, you cannot hope to succeed in educating young people if you can't entertain them first. So entertainment is what gets you through the door first, especially in this rapidly digital age. We have a saying, my former prof used to say, that it's not enough to want to inform or educate. You have to entertain first. You have to, and it goes to what we're discussing here, that you have to use some form of edutainment. You talked about the show, from the American show that it's globally, everybody talks about it, and they use entertainment to teach young people. And so we have the Basic Education Fund. We have so many funds under the government for education. Why don't we, as a matter of policy, for example, the NBC says, look, a certain percentage of that should come towards education, and you mandate certain quotas for education, for entertaining education that is through entertainment. We don't have, where's our own kind of PBS shows, our own Big Birds, and we have the characters, okay? So it is possible through policy, because policy is the engine that drives everything, that secures the future for the young people and for all of us, indeed. So I think perhaps that would be one quick takeaway, that the National Broadcasting Commission says, you know what, let's publish a paper or a memo to the minister or to the president that perhaps we have this every business in Nigeria, every profit-centered business pays a certain percentage of their profit goes to the Education Trust Fund. I hope I'm correct. I believe that is the case. Why don't we say of that percentage, of that amount, a certain percentage goes to, because you cannot, look, it's a mindset thing, and we're in a race. It's not just about, when you look at the young people, we're in a race, and we have to see this as crucial. It's very strategic to get our young people, and you have to do that through entertainment. So I do agree, the statistics are there staring us in the face. Otherwise, they will consume media that we don't create and that we're not mindfully creating for them. And you will see the results, and we're seeing the results even right now. And we're talking about, our young people are not, we're seeing the results. So it's really scary if we're not very strategic and focused around this.
So it's time for Nigeria to actually begin to look at policies that would help drive this conversation. I'll come to you, TY. You have played in this entertainment industry. As at January this year, we're told that social media users in Nigeria are about 38.7 million, just in Nigeria. Like, if I have 38.7 million likes on my content, I don't blow with that down. You know, that said, it just speaks to the opportunities that are there. So from your perspective, as someone who is there and who has seen the surge, you know, the digital surge, how much young people are attracted to visuals, to photography, to video contents and all that. What would you say are the opportunities that are there now that the digital space is presenting compared to the traditional one?
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a beautiful time to be here. I believe that with all the change that is happening in the digital world, the most important opportunity is for the people that are sat in this room. My favorite stories, one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the crippled man who would wait for an angel to come and stir the waters so that he would walk in and be healed. And for many people who are in media, it is very, very easy for you to feel old, for you to feel out of touch, for you to feel like you don't belong anymore, everything is over your head. But the interesting thing is the way that media is moving, the waters are stirring again. And I'll share another scripture. Except you become like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom. That means that the biggest opportunity, that the change in how media is being used, consumed, and shared is the opportunity to learn. So we can all become children again until we allow ourselves to actually go in and learn like everybody is learning. Then we cannot have the impact that we cannot have the impact that we should in helping our younger generation form ideas. It is a great time to learn. With the advent of AI, everybody is on level 0. There's no professor in AI. There's no one that has had access to any of these tools for longer than 1 or 2 years. We're all beginners, we're all learners. So I feel like the most important thing for anyone who is a media player is to understand that this is the stirring of the waters. If you do not take this time to pull time out to learn and become a child again, then you lose your opportunity to actually have the impact that you desire to have. It is time for us to become like our own children, to learn like our own children. Every single child that picks up a tablet was not born with the tablet. They're seeing it for the first time. And if we see all these changes in media, in social media, in artificial intelligence, and we look through the eyes of the child, we begin to learn again, and then we can have the impact that we should have.
Aptly said. You know, I agree that every one of us should actually have learning as a posture, you know, to be able to navigate through this period. And I would have to go to Prof at this moment. Prof, may I confess that while you spoke, I was just telling myself, isn't it the next time you're on your screen, you would be hearing Prof's voice behind you. saying, get up, because I'm guilty as charged, So that said, one would want to look at exactly why this trend is here, exactly why we're having people shift, young people especially, shift to using smartphones, shift to the digital platform. What's the attraction? I'm sure probably your study, must have revealed one or two things. Could you speak to that, ma'am?
I think Temitope has he answered some of the question. This we talk about civilization, we talk about different ages. I just think that this is the age, is the age of digital revolution, if I am allowed to use that word. And everything, there's a lot of technology around now. And if they don't move that way, which is why I said, on one of my slides, I said it's the way of life now. It's just the way to go. Anything you want to do, even medically, you can stay here, you are talking to somebody in India or in the US, and we heard of that robotic surgery that was done. It's all through the media. It's all through digitalization. And they are in that era, and they cannot be left behind. So there's really nothing we can do about them staying glued to the system or staying glued to the telephone, other than to educate them on certain controls or seeing how we can just mitigate, but you can't take them away from it. Like somebody said, the generation Alpha, they are born into this digital world. That's why all those children, nobody taught them, but they know how to operate it. So it's just the age, and I don't think there's anything we can do about it. Just as T.Y. Bello said, all we need to do is become like them, learn from them, and then train them, teach them that if you don't do this, these are dangers that are looming.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Digi, sir, I would like you to also speak to that question. Why has the digital world, the content we'll find there become attractive, in your opinion? When we juxtapose this with the traditional media, why are more people, almost 40 million Nigerians, why are we going that way? What's different in that context, in the content that they give us?
The first thing is ease, it's access, it's availability. Everyone here, if truth be told, once we wake up in the morning, what's the first thing we reach out for? Most people reach for their phone, check WhatsApp messages, check, I say it every day when people ask me, Emeka, what's your biggest competition as far as Afia is concerned? I say it's WhatsApp. It sounds like a joke. I say it's WhatsApp because that's where a lot of the information that people get and share, even our own content. If we want our own content to reach far more people, we have to push it. We have to make the content easy, bite size. We have to distribute it digitally. We have to make it, edit it in such a way. For those who are editors, if you look at any content these days, is usually cut in with the 6-second rule. That means every scene is 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds. And if you do anything longer than 15 seconds, people stop watching your stuff. So it's because the content is, first of all, is the mobile phone makes it, it's very individual. So we all have access to a mobile phone. It's connected to the internet, hopefully. And then the information, the content we get is shareable in such a way that it's easy for us to get access to this kind of content. So that's what makes it more attractive. And like I said, we have to realize the technicality of how information is produced, distributed and shared in this digital age. And we have to follow that mantra. So if we want to reach more children and we want to direct them, sort of socially engineer them in a way that we find in terms of morals, in terms of even to like science and math. It's such a shame we're in this hall. We've had Professor Wale Soyinka, Nobel laureate. I haven't seen a movie on him that in a way that I haven't seen animated content around him. I haven't seen on Chimamanda. I haven't seen on our scientists, our engineers. I haven't seen the people who we should look up to, our children should look up to. We're not creating those kind of content. And so, and if you're not creating this kind of content, and the content, other types of content exist in this digital sphere, young people will go there, they will gravitate to those kind of content. And that's what we're seeing. I have no problem with people who create content of all sorts. In a digital age, and I've often said that to my colleagues and my peers, you cannot stop the flow of content. Because I hear people say, oh, we have to protect our youth, and we have to stop this kind of content. You can't stop it. You can't. It's not possible. That's my own philosophy. But what you can do is to create your own type of content that equally exists in such ways and equally available in order for those young people to have access to it. That's what you should do. So it's not like saying, oh, let's stop this kind of, because they'll find ways around it. We were here in this country. Our former president, we banned Twitter. What happened? People found VPN. And that's the nature of digital. It's always one step ahead. So you have to create your own content. My own philosophy is, let us focus on creating the right kind of content and push it through mobile and other type of digital devices that are available to reach young people. But let's do it knowing fully well how young people like to consume content.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. There's a lot he just said, all in one, and it leads me to my next question. Ease is what they want, but could it be that our younger generation also find trust online? Trust. Is it that, for example, traditional media there's the popular notion that what we say on some TV stations, on some platforms, are actually what is handed to us. And so, could trust be an issue? If yes, TY, how would the traditional broadcaster or content developer work around the trust? To gain the trust of a younger person, how do we work around it?
Trust. I have something very interesting to say. And it's for you to really get to a point where you are able to share stuff that is authentic, you actually have to become born again. Not in a religious context, but the ability to start again and become a child again and begin to see things through the eyes of the audience that you are sharing information with. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? The ability to step out of your position, your work, your journey, and look back and say, is what I'm actually sharing, does it sound authentic? Is it authentic? Is it actually interesting? Do they find it interesting? Is it boring? Because if you don't go back and come afresh and begin to see what you are actually sharing from fresh eyes, from childlike eyes, then you can't really judge the way forward to understand, okay, what I'm saying is true. It's very necessary. There is a very big gap in the ethics, the ethos, the way that young people should be thinking. What they're being exposed to online isn't leading them down a path that will move them forward. But in telling my truth, am I interesting? Do I actually sound authentic? Does it sound like propaganda? What does propaganda sound like? How do I sound like that? How can I shift my messaging? How do I shift even the people that I'm using to share my message? It's about starting over. It's about going back to zero and actually looking at ourselves and seeing how are we perceived by another generation, because they outnumber us. But we have something that they need. And if we cannot see how they see us, if we cannot see that, some of the stuff that we actually put out can be boring. And we don't know it because we are so overwhelmed with the importance of the message that we don't see that, yes, what we're saying is important, but we can turn it around and say it in a different way. Then there's no room to be authentic if we're not interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, well, I think looking through the eyes of a child is what matters. I tell you, anytime, like I have a presentation, I call they're adult children, but one is Gen Z, but, he's an adult, he's working, and like someone said, work 3 times and then stayed 2 days at home, 3 days at home, just 2 times, and wants to do things by his own. I mean, I said, please, this work you're doing, what? So I don't even, but so now, in fact, after listening to Temitope, I now said, yes, I need to really see things from their own angle. That's the way we can learn. So sometimes I just present to them, and they tell me, Mommy, what is this? What information have you passed to me? You haven't passed on any information. Nobody will understand what you're saying. And then I tell them, okay, tell me, so how do I do it? And they tell me, Mommy, this is what you do. This slide, remove this one. Nobody will, that it won't resonate. So I think we have to go back, and see how we can involve them and then learn from them. Because, I was thinking to myself, all these things I've put, how will Nigerian Broadcasting Commission execute it? Because we have so many content creators, and those are the people that you can use easily to pass on the message. So it means that NBC has to go through that, or even Africast. You have to go through the content creation, go through that system, as we have been told earlier on, so that we are not staying put with our old traditional methods. So we have to move out of our comfort zone and think like them, be like them, so that we can actually reach them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Ma'am. Let me keep this here. So obviously there is so much that we have to do in terms of learning. While all of you shared your ideas on the subject, I just wondered about passive viewing. So traditional media would naturally encourage us to just sit down and watch, and there is no interaction. And then we remember how it was when phone-in programs came. It was almost like, oh, everybody wants to call in, A presenter is trying to round off, and the people are saying, we still have more to say. The social media came, or new media came, and took it a bit forward. And so now we can interact. In fact, on some days, it's the comments I go to. Like, you wrote the floor, and so you can imagine what interaction is doing in keeping our audience. My question then would be, what should the broadcaster, traditional broadcaster, be doing, since we have a platform that it's more, or a content creator who is into traditional broadcasting? What should we be doing? Should we be having a measure of both kinds so that there is a platform for expression? Or should we just stay with our passive viewing? After all, the contents, they are holy. Thank you, sir. Let me hear you.
So I think for all broadcasters, the number one rule, and I speak from my own perspective, is that you think digital first. You think digital first. You adopt a digital mindset. That means that for every piece of content that you put out there, every piece of content, whether it's 9 o'clock news, whether it's news at 10, whether it's Sheun Show at 7, you think, how will this piece of content exist digitally? On WhatsApp, which bits can I put out? On Facebook, which bits can I also, as I'm broadcasting live on NTA or on DSTV, How should I also go on YouTube? Every organization now that calls itself has a YouTube page. And you think, what bits can I put out there on Twitter? Twitter is for angry birds. Should I put out the most controversial bit so that it will vex some people? They will start, as you're saying, we'll go to the comment section, So you can do all of those things, but you have to have a digital mindset, first of all, because that is, as we said, that is where the majority of people watch you. A lot of times, we in the traditional broadcast space, we think that we're broadcasting. We think that we're broadcasting, but actually, that's not what we're doing. Yeah, there's something else that we're doing, and the secret of what we are doing, but not a lot of us are mindful of, is that the audience has changed. The way when television first came and there was radio, people said television was going to kill radio. So traditional broadcast is not going to go anywhere. But we have to be mindful of where the audiences are and how they consume our content. So we need to pay attention. So it's not you broadcasting. It's actually you're chasing the audience and you're trying to aggregate your audience in a meaningful way. It's audience aggregation. That is what we're doing. It's audience aggregation. And that is why, for a lot of us, we fail to understand it. But the business of all of us in the traditional sense is audience aggregation. Okay, once you understand your audience and you aggregate your content to suit them, then you're in a much better place. Okay, and then you can now hopefully monetize that audience that you've aggregated. That's the number one thing. It's not in the old days where NTA starts at 4, ends at midnight, and it was only NTA. These days, there's 1,000 broadcasters. Anyone with a phone is a broadcaster, really. So I don't know how my brother Charles is going to attempt to regulate in that world if he's not looking at audience first. Okay, so from a regulatory perspective, you have to look at it from the audience first, and whether we are providing content to meet our audience, and whether we can regulate, from that perspective. And I think that's the most critical thing. And that goes back to the question you asked about trust. Because if you aggregate your content and your audience feels that, oh, this is for me, then they build trust. And they can trust you because they know you're providing content with them in mind. And they see themselves as, oh, okay, this TV station is mine. And they begin to take ownership, and then you build trust. And I think that's the most critical thing in my view.
Thank you very much, sir. Our mics have taken 2 minutes. Odera. So anyway, that is so valid. Audience first, data analytics are just very important as we begin to chase the audience. Now, having said that, what's on my mind now is engagement in terms of edutainment. If I want to produce a series, for example, of the standard of Nickelodeon or of the standard of Sesame Street, is expensive. It's pretty, in fact, even the 1-minute reels, to produce them the quality that, would hold your audience, they're expensive. So how can content creators collaborate? I know that personally, I think that the health sector in this country has been able to do a bit of that, in the sense that we have the likes of Aproco Doctor and people are viewing and learning. Education is also doing that, but there are various other spaces, So I would want to start with Prof, please. What collaborations are available in terms of funding, in terms of partnerships for content creators? We have one more minute on that question, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Currently, I don't think there is any funding. However, we have collaborations that are, it's not a collaboration that is official, but people just come and say, oh, come and talk about this topic. But beyond that, what I think we need to do now is, we have a lot of content creators. And what they can do is, they can be taught on a particular disease or whatever we want to pass across, and then they can think it out as to how to push it out to the public. And we can then look for funding, maybe in the pharmaceutical sector, because those are the people that will end up selling the medication anyway. You know, so we can wound it around that. But the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission or all the other stations also can help. But I think if we have it pushed out more on YouTube, on TikTok, you know, with content creator helping. For instance, what I've spoken about today, to let people know. There are ways they can always bring it up and make it clearer to people.
All right.
Thank you.
Please also mention the place of influencers, because on social media we have influencers. Is it possible that those are collaborative opportunities?
I feel like, yes, collaboration is important, bringing people from different art forms together. Let me figure out how to say this in less than 1 minute. I am a photographer, and I remember that there was a time when it was important to have a very good darkroom, buy authentic chemicals, know how to, print with your enlargements. We had exhibitions based on how well you could print. Now, about 2004, 2005, there was a shift to digital. And many people refused to move because there was this argument about, oh, a grain can never be a pixel. A pixel is going to come and go. But pixels never went anywhere. When you look at an image today, you're just seeing an image. You don't care how it was made. Now, AI has now come. Many things that used to be expensive, there are tools available to us to work with. And we have to use those tools because that is going to be the language of the future. Those who ignore those tools and continue to think that everything must be done the hard way are going to become dinosaurs. So yes, collaboration is important, but we must collaborate with technology.
Let me ask DG to also attend. Collaboration opportunities, funding opportunities.
Well, we are fortunate in our space of media entertainment space that the fundamental for winning is working together. I mean, there's no production anywhere. You cameraman, sound. Nobody is irrelevant. Even the cable guy, even the tea guy, welfare people. Go and try and shoot a film, and welfare is not. You hear a different story. So, and that's the key. And within the digital world, soloists don't work. We need to work together. I think that's the fundamental we need to preach, that, whether Amafia or NTA or DBN, we need to build that market and that mind space that collaboration is key. And in terms of the particular topic we're talking about, one of our biggest influencers should be the National Broadcasting Commission. Do you understand? Chairing, leading, creating the thought leadership with regards to what we want to drive edutainment within the country. And so I'm challenging my brother Charles, to one of the things to publish like a paper to say this is our roadmap for edutainment over the next 5 years, over the next 2 years. This is what we expect, and this is the role of, say, this is what the commission is going to do. This is what we expect Ministry of Education to do, Ministry of Culture, and so on, so that everybody comes into there, and hopefully this is where the funding, but we need MBC to be a cheerleader in this regard.
All right, thank you. Can we put our hands together for the panel? We have just one more question, and then we'll wrap it up, please. Please, it won't take, sorry? Okay. Okay. So, but in leading you into closing and letting us into your final thoughts, I'm very particular about sectorial content development because I play the maritime space. And so during it's a field I've been in for about 25 years now. And every time we meet the average Nigerian, they do not know what the maritime space is about, you know. And so even though we had done all forms of the media, we had gone to print, we had done online, we started doing broadcast and all that, we had to start devising ways for appealing to the Nigerian public, to the younger person. And one of the things we did was to come up with storytelling classes. So we had these storytelling classes where people come into the maritime area. We take you to the dockyard, for example. You interact with captains on warships, and they tell you their stories. And then they are taxed on, and these younger ones, because it's actually a youth initiative. So these younger ones now write stories, and we have about 17 stories published, such short stories, that should be content for the industry. Now, all right, ma'am, time up. So now we have also moved into art. So what we do with the art exhibition is to now bring the blue economy before Nigerians. And it's easier because as a media company, somebody is saying Talonjebe on chats, you know, what are you trying to say? But when it's represented in art form, they come in there and you can strike a conversation on safety, what to do around the ship. You know, what to do to avoid being in mishaps. This can happen. So what other areas, because it's popular for us to say, do music, do education industry, do other sectors. What other sectors should we begin to look at such that digital technology becomes like an aid to soft power diplomacy? You know, where our content also push forward our national interest and our agenda. That will be your last thoughts. Thank you. 30 seconds. So
I think you already said it all. And if we stitched everything you said together into one thread, I feel like that's the way forward. I would repeat the same thing that I've said again. This is a great time to be alive. Never be afraid to start again. Don't be too old to learn. Be willing to watch and look back and say, what is my message? How am I putting it across? How are people hearing it? And what is their experience? If you can do that, then you can have the impact that you've always dreamt of having.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. I would say collaboration and everything, to me, boils down to creativity. We have a lot of people who are very creative in Africa. Tell them the story, have role play, and you can pass on your message on the social media, and you'll have everyone involved. Thank you.
thank you, DG, sir. Your last thoughts.
Oh, okay, it's a digital mindset, and that's all. I have nothing else to say. Just adopt that digital mindset, and we'll be fine.
Thank you very much. A
So
round of
learn,
applause.
adopt digital mindset, learn, collaborate, and the space is yours. Just keep learning. Thank you for having us. Thank you
so much.
everyone.
Please, let's
Thank
stand
you.
for pictures. Okay. Okay, so while we're taking pictures, if you have any questions, we'll just be taking one question, please. One question. And we need to keep it short because we need to wrap up. One question. Please, can we get a microphone to that end? Oh, shoot. Please, our panelists, do not leave yet. We're taking questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Idris Aloma, the General Manager, Unilorin FM in Kwara State. I want to commend the panelists and NBC for organizing this year Africast. In fact, it is a worthwhile exercise. Mine is just an advice. If we look at what happened in Rwanda in 1994, how people that were ill-educated journalists and broadcasters turned the country into a war zone, we will know that broadcasting is not a joke. In Nepal recently, what Gen Z did in that country, we can see how social media can be used to burn the country down. My advice is that in our respective organizations, we should make sure that we have social media desk and also we have content creation unit. We get them trained so that they will be informed and acquainted with the trend of what is happening so that our content in our stations and organizations will be very rich and conform with what the Gen Z want so that we can move broadcasting industry forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that powerful contribution. Indeed, it was powerful. We have seen and we've heard from our panelists and we've understood, I'm very sure, because it was very concise and clear. Thank you very much to our dear panelists. You can now leave. We have seen, and it is very clear, we've seen the necessary need to unlearn, to learn and relearn. We've seen that we cannot stop the flow of content, so we need to have a digital mindset. And we need to work with our childlike curiosity, just to see how, we can open our minds up to new technology and new innovations. Thank you so much for sticking with us up until this point. We're going to be going on a 30-minute break. And after that...
And before we round off that, I want to call on those with silver, gold, and platinum badges to please go over to Sheraton. And the others should please remain here. We have light entertainment for you. But with badges that are okay, please, you can, for silver, gold, and platinum badge holders, please, this lady that is raising her hand over here, please just go with her. Thank you. And please, let's keep to time. You have 30 minutes break, then we come back and we conclude the sessions for the day. Thank you and enjoy your break.